Hi, I'm Alicia Michelle, best-selling author, ICF certified coach, and neurocoach. I love helping Christian women discover practical ways to manage emotions with science and scripture so they can live with more calm, more clarity, more confidence. I'm so glad you're here. Find a cozy spot and let's get started. Hey there, welcome to another episode of the Christian Mindset Coach with me, Alicia Michelle. I am in midlife, the whole season, maybe 40s to 60s, and in perimenopause and all of the things, as I know many of you who are listening are. But can we talk today about the emotions behind this season of life, especially this one emotion that has been surprising for me to encounter. And I've been hearing from a lot of friends that this is what they're struggling with too. And it's loneliness. That loneliness is this part of being in this season that's crept in quietly, almost, I'm not even sure how it got there. But all of a sudden, as I'm interacting with family, I'm interacting with my kids, and even my friends, I sometimes feel this loneliness that I haven't felt maybe since I was a teenager trying to figure out high school or going to college and trying to find my place. And it's taken me off guard a little bit. I wonder if that's something that you're struggling with too. I know we talked about this concept a little bit last month in the Emotional Confidence Club, and I was surprised how much it resonated with a lot of the other ladies. And we're going to be covering it in detail in July in the Emotional Confidence Club. But I just want to say first that if you're feeling like this, that, man, you are not alone. And I want to dig more into what this feeling is, especially if you feel like you are in a situation where you have family, you have people around you, you have a good friend group, or you feel like there's not a reason for this. I love the people around me, so why do I feel so lonely? I want to share a story that encapsulates this concept. Many of you know, if you follow me on Facebook, that my daughter just enlisted with the U.S. Navy, and we are so excited for her. She is using this as an opportunity to see the world. She's also going in a medical position, and she's interested in working in medicine, so this is going to be a great training ground for her. But in this process, it's been a huge stretching, not just for her to be going into this new season, but for me as her mom, because this was not what I thought we would be doing. The transition was a little surprising for me because it was a decision that had been brewing for a long time, but we thought she was going to make another decision. And so in the last 3 to 4 weeks that she was here, it was a lot of rushing to get things completed and to say goodbye. And it was also right around the time she was graduating from high school, finishing up her swim season. And it was just like, there was a lot happening. And I found myself feeling really jealous and frustrated because I knew that the countdown was ticking in terms of when she was leaving. And I was like, okay, I need to spend time with her. And why is she spending time with them? Or why is her attention divided almost? And it was crazy because I thought, of course, she wants to say goodbye to these other people. And so I can't just hold her in my arms and keep her all to myself. But it was like there was this war on where I wasn't mad at her and she wasn't doing anything wrong, but I noticed that things were changing and I didn't know what to do with that because it made me feel very lonely. It made me feel not needed. It made me feel left out, and it felt hurtful, even though she hadn't done anything hurtful to me. And as I started thinking about this emotion and understanding what it was really about, that there wasn't anything to be mad at her about, that it was something going on inside of me, I began to see this is showing up in other places, in other relationships right now, and that this, yes, is heightened because of this change that's happening in our family with her going into the Navy, but it's also something that is happening all in my relationships. And so I started thinking about what, God, is this about? Why is this so hard? What other emotions are there behind it? I mean, grief is obviously a big part of this. And I know even if you are someone who has a friend or a son or daughter or a granddaughter or a grandson or a nephew, niece who has graduated from high school or college. Anytime there's these milestones, I think we feel that grief and we feel lonely in those places because we're like, so what is it that I'm supposed to do next in this relationship, or who am I supposed to be now, especially if it's in a parental role? That's the part where we feel like there is this disconnection with the people we love, even though they are doing all these great things, and it can leave us feeling unsettled. Or you might be finding that the connection that you had, maybe with a loved one or with a friend, is not as easy as it used to be. And even though they haven't changed or anything has gone wrong in the relationship, it's just, why is it harder for me to connect with them? So if you felt that way, you again are in good company, and that's what we're talking about. I want to make a couple of points here. First, that this season of midlife is about restructuring. It's about restructuring how we are as people. It's about restructuring maybe our marriage, how we relate to our spouse, restructuring the parental responsibilities. Maybe even career is shifting. For some of us, we may be thinking about retirement, or we may be retiring. So it's normal for this restructuring to happen, and we can't not expect it to also happen in our relationships. We're going to have this restructuring in relationships in midlife, not because something's broken, but because life changes, because we're changing, because children are becoming independent, because we're finding that our marriages are changing as maybe kids are moving out or different job responsibilities are happening. There's changes that are happening. Many of us are in this sandwich season where we have young kids at home or kids that we're still taking care of, and we have parents who we are helping transition in their elderly years, and they need a little bit more attention and care and time. And we're kind of like, okay, this is challenging to balance both. It's hard. It's hard to feel this. And we've seen this in other seasons. We have to remind ourselves that it's maybe been a while, but we felt these big transitions and maybe even loneliness. Perhaps when we first became a mom, if you're a mom like I am, I remember feeling so lonely as a mom because here I was, someone who had a career, who worked out of the home, and now I was home with a baby that I loved so much and I was so grateful to have, but I also felt like I couldn't do the things that I did before. I couldn't call a friend. I felt very much alone, sitting there taking care of a baby all day while my husband was at work. And those are really challenging seasons. Those are seasons, however, that I feel like there's some great opportunities that God gives us. So I want to explore that a little bit today, because these are the places where God is more real and apparent. We are, just as humans, more apt to go to God when we are in these seasons of quiet and hurt and transition. Not even if it's a hurt that is intentional, like we've said, it's just this pain that maybe we weren't able to see before, or we haven't noticed that's been there for a while. It's like the dust settles and we can notice it. It was so interesting to me during COVID how so many people struggled with depression and anxiety, how that just went up through the roof. Yes, there was huge stresses that were put on us. A lot of us had to school our kids from home and keep down a full-time job. There were so many pressures of sickness, that we had loved ones who were sick and dying. We lost family members to the virus. So I understand all of that, but I think a lot of us with the mental health issues, it was the quiet. It was, I don't have the busyness in my life. I don't have the activities, the going out, the visiting people to distract me from some of the things that have been hiding in there. And so if we don't know what to do with those things, we can go inward, we can let them fester, we can go down these spirals. These moments of transition and quiet in our lives where we feel that emptiness or loneliness, these are moments of connection with God. These are moments for hope. Sometimes He needs to quiet things down so He can get our attention. And we can't expect every season to be the same. As much as we enjoy certain seasons and we don't want things to change, it is so hard. It is so hard to say goodbye to certain seasons. It has been really challenging for me to see my kids grow up and to see them change. I've shared about this before, but a couple of years ago, I went through a time where I could not look at pictures of my kids when they were little without having a panic attack. I felt this crippling, almost like something was strangling me when I would look at those pictures. And I was like, why am I feeling like this? I love my kids and I love where they are now, but it was just that realization that they aren't in that season anymore. And there was this quiet loneliness creeping in where it was like they didn't need me as much anymore as they did back then. And it was like, what am I supposed to do with this? Ecclesiastes 3:1 reminds us, for everything there is a season, a time for every activity under heaven. And so God designs us to be able to move through these seasons. He understands, as the author and creator of emotions, he understands that we're going to have big feelings in these transitions. He hasn't abandoned us. He doesn't say, I'm only here for you in this specific situation or when you are feeling this. He's always there for us. So this is an opportunity for us, as we get quiet, to start to ask some deeper questions, specifically about what has changed, what is shifting in my life. Why does that make sense? Why I might feel a little bit more lonely, or there might be more quiet in my life. And what might God be asking me to do in that and to feel in that? Not necessarily to fix. That's what we're not focusing on today. We're not fixing the loneliness. We are looking at it and saying, why are you here? What is this feeling about? And how can it be teaching me something important? Now, some relationships change, that we have different friendships in different seasons, and some friendships stay the course of time. And so that's normal too. I had the conversation last night with a friend that I have had since I was 19 in college. And this friend has, my goodness, seen me through every season. I've seen her through every season. She saw me before I became a Christian. She was part of my journey to become a follower of Christ. And now as moms, she has 2 kids and I have 4. We live in opposite sides of the country. We always have. But now there's this difference in our relationship. When we were 19 and I was in college and she was a campus leader and we eventually were roommates, but we have relationships that we can pick up, and then we have relationships that go away. I think about the times of the friends I had in my 20s or in my 30s when I was first becoming a mom. Those are different friendships. And it's not that I even had a falling out with those friends, but things shift and change. So I say that to say that there will be constants in our lives. There will be friends or family members that we've been close to that are going to stay there and are going to be there. But I have had to remind myself again and again that if I feel like a friendship is fading and that is making me sad and making me feel lonely, that God has always been faithful to transition me into a season where there is a different set of friends. Not that I'm trying to replace that friend, but just for various reasons, things aren't allowing us to connect anymore. And so if I feel that loneliness, I ask him, Lord, show me in this next season where I can connect to a different person that you want me to connect to. Show me what this is about. Show me what you want me to learn from this time. Now, something really important that we have to say is that loneliness is not the same as being alone. Our emotions are going to try to lie to us and tell us when we feel loneliness, specifically when these transition seasons are happening and there are people who are moving into a different capacity in our relationship with us, such as our kids leaving and going and being somewhere else. Loneliness wants to try to tell us that we have no one around us. And that's simply not true. And it's so important for us to understand, because loneliness it's not the absence of people, it's just the absence of connection. You can feel alone in a crowded room, as that old phrase says. It doesn't matter that there are people in our lives or not. Really, it matters what is the depth of that connection in those relationships. You and I may have a ton of friendships that you can name XYZ, all these people that are in your life, but you might still be feeling lonely. So we have to say, not am I judging my loneliness on the number of people in my life or the things that I'm doing even. Do I feel that connection? Do I feel like I am able to give in that relationship and I'm able to receive in these very human ways? Specifically, do I feel seen? Do I feel known? Do I feel connected emotionally with someone or emotionally disconnected? Do I feel like I'm needed maybe, but I don't feel known? I think that's a really common one in this season too, where yeah, I might be needed by a lot of people. I might be that person at church who everyone depends on, or I might be that person in my family who's always organizing all the get-togethers, whatever role you might have. You can still feel alone in that because you don't feel known for who you are. So just some really important questions. Many of us feel like we are busy. We have a lot of people around us, so we're not necessarily alone in that sense. But the loneliness still lingers because it's really about connection in these deeper areas. And like we said, when the voices and the life start to quiet down, that's when some of these deeper things come up of feeling empty, feeling like, am I known? Am I seen by other people? It's normal. It's normal to feel that in these transition seasons of midlife. I shared that my daughter is leaving for the Navy, and so before she left, she cleaned out part of her room, and because she was like, aren't you going to keep my room the same? And I was like, sweetheart, you just signed a contract with the Navy. You're not going to be here for a few years. Of course, you're going to come back and visit when you can, but we're going to turn this into a guest room because we've not had a guest room for a really long time, and we would love to have one. I have been going through this process of going step by step through her room and cleaning things out, wiping things down, behind the bed, under the dresser, stuff that hasn't been moved for a while. And it's just like, whew, okay. Just refreshing it, right? Giving it a new life. We have this whole super exciting vision of what this guest room is going to be like. At first I had this idea because I saw a pillow that had an anchor on it at Target. And I was like, oh, that is so cute. It reminds me of the Navy, right? I wanted to do something as an homage to her in that room. But then I realized, okay, I really think this is a room where I want to have vintage posters and travel being a part of this really cool kind of curated feel of relaxation and calm, but more of a high-end hotel with some really cool travel poster pictures and stuff. And so we have been blessed to be able to go to Italy, go to Germany. We went to Africa about 15 years ago. Our kids have been to Japan, just different places where we have some memories and some attachments. So I'm excited because that's what we're doing in that room. And I'm sharing all that just to say that her room for the past 13 years has been this one season, this one purpose. It has been her room. It has grown with her. It has adapted and changed as she went from being 5 or 6 when we first moved in here to now being 18, almost 19 years old and moving out. But now it's starting fresh. We're clearing out all the cobwebs. We're starting fresh. We're painting the walls. We're putting up new things. We're adding new bedding. And I think that's a beautiful metaphor for what this season can be like, even with our friendships and with our connection with other. We are taking a closer look at what's happening. And we're saying, what is my calling in this season, God? How can I reassess what's happening? What is my new purpose? And what is that connection that you want me to have with others within that purpose? Hey, it's Alicia. Do you replay conversations long after they're over, or feel responsible for how others are feeling? Or how about this? Say yes when you really just want to say no? If you're stuck in that cycle of people pleasing and feeling responsible for everyone else,
You are not alone, and there's a reason that your brain keeps going back to these patterns. That's exactly why I created the People Pleasing Check-In Workbook. It's a simple, self-guided assessment with powerful coaching questions, the kind I ask my clients, to help you understand what's really driving your people pleasing, so you can finally see your patterns more clearly, understand what's behind them, and recognize how they're affecting your relationships and everyday peace. Because understanding the patterns is the first step to getting free from people pleasing. If you're tired of the overanalyzing, the ongoing guilt, and the pressure to keep everyone happy, grab the People Pleasing Check-In Workbook and start your path to more peace, healthier relationships, and renewed confidence. Find it at aliciamichelle.com/people-pleasing. That's aliciamichelle.com/people-pleasing.
There's an interesting story that we're very familiar with as Christian women, the story of Mary and Martha. If you know the story, Mary and Martha were having Jesus over for dinner. Mary was the one sitting at Jesus' feet, listening to him. Martha was running all around, taking care of all the food prep and doing whatever else needed to be done. And so she finally comes to Jesus and says, Jesus, tell my sister to help me. I am overwhelmed. She's just sitting here. And Jesus tells her, you worry about many things. He acknowledges what she's going through, but he says that Mary has chosen the better thing, and it's not going to be taken from her. I want to look at that story from a different angle, and that is what Martha was feeling. What was Martha feeling? I really think what Martha was saying wasn't that she minded doing the chores and taking care of what needed to be taken care of. It was that she wasn't feeling seen. She was feeling disconnected from her own needs and from the relationships that she cared about. She was that person surrounded by people, but she felt lonely in a full room. So that loneliness and that I'm carrying this all myself, I'm doing this all myself, it was apparent to her, and she was asking Jesus for help with that. Many of us have spent years caring, serving, helping, providing, and then we suddenly realize, I don't even know who I am anymore. And as the voices and the situations quiet down, we're like, I don't even know how to fill this up. I don't even know what to do with myself. I don't even know how to get that connection that I'm feeling. It just can feel like this really big ache. I know that for me, this happened when I went through the medical crisis in 2017. I had this massive time of physical healing, but for me, it was a stripping away and starting over in that quiet of, Lord, who am I now? Who do you want me to be? Because I felt so alone. There was no one else who could carry me on that journey but Jesus, truly. And I want you to hear that. If you are in a place where you're like, I'm reaching out, I'm trying to make connections, there are moments where there is so much pain and you're doing all the right things, but God has to fill in the gaps. God has to be the one who's carrying you through that. And we have to depend on him for that. There were so many times, I remember specifically one day, I had tried to come downstairs because I was in bed for 9 months. I could not sit up. I couldn't move my head. I had to be fed. People had to feed me. I had to have shots several times a day to keep my blood thin. It was a lot. It really was. And I remember one day I was so frustrated with myself, and I just said, I'm coming downstairs. I don't care. I need to be around people, because I was feeling in this house surrounded by 4 kids who I loved and adored. And my husband was there too, who I loved and adored. And it was like, I can't even be with them. And I was feeling I needed that connection. But I went downstairs and I had a really intense headache. I was down with everyone for maybe 15 minutes. And it got so bad, I had to go into my son's room, which is on the ground floor. And I just sat there and I was writhing in pain on his bed, just in so much pain, and feeling the pain physically, but also feeling that emptiness, that sadness of just, Lord, help me feel the connection again, because I feel so lonely. And God was so faithful to carry me through that. Those moments were excruciating, but he was faithful. God is saying, come Come to me with this pain. Come to me with the emptiness that you're feeling. We read in Psalm 62, verse 8, trust in him at all times, you people. Pour out your heart to him, for God is our refuge. He's our refuge. And so he's asking us first to say, do you feel this pain? Do you feel this emptiness, this loneliness? And come bring it to me. And together, I want to show you what it's trying to tell you. It might be a question about, who am I in this season? What do you have for me? What is next for me? Maybe you've never felt seen or known in your marriage, or maybe you've never felt seen or known in your extended family or with a certain friend. And so this is God calling us to what could be. And we do have to recognize that there is grief here. It's grief. That loneliness and grief often walk hand in hand. We're grieving in these midlife seasons. We're grieving who we used to be. Maybe our bodies are changing. We're grieving what relationships maybe we had before, but now we don't have. Who your children used to be. Maybe your kids were really involved in sports, and a lot of your friendships have been centered around these going to games with these other parents, and you're like, I don't have that anymore. Where do I even go? Maybe there's expectations that you had that weren't filled, and you're just lonely. So going to God, not asking him even necessarily to fix it, but just to say, Lord, what's here? And I'm asking you to hold me through it. In episode 365, we talked about this concept of God reveals so that he can heal. And that's what I want us to remember here, is that he's not revealing this loneliness as a way to shame us or for it to be one more thing for us to figure out. It's an opportunity. It's God inviting us in and loving us enough to bring us to deeper healing. Nothing is wrong with you. Can we just say that? Can we just close with that? Nothing is wrong with you and I if you're feeling these lonely feelings. Maybe you're feeling this and you're not in midlife, but you're feeling it in a different season. A lot of this still definitely applies. The ache in your heart, the need for something more, the ability to think, I have all these things, all these friendships, why is it not filling me up? That really the deeper ache inside isn't about even if they're a friendship or not. It really is about the deeper need that God may be asking us to figure out. Also, feeling lonely doesn't mean that we are ungrateful. I think there's this guilt that sometimes happens where we think, I just need to be more grateful. Look at all the things that I have. We want to try to talk us out of the loneliness, but we can have a lot. We can say, I have this marriage or this relationship with another person. I have these kids. I have a job. I have friends. I have a church family. I have my extended family, and I'm grateful for them. And I can still be grateful for them and still feel like there's an emptiness, that we can have both. It's just this longing for connection. That is human. That is human. Let's close with this final thought. I want you to consider, if you heard nothing else today, if you are struggling with loneliness, to ask yourself this question: what kind of connection am I longing for right now? What is that ache? What is that need that I feel? Because like we said, you can have all the relationships, and we sometimes dream, well, if I had this or this, it would be better. You can have all those things, but if it's not meeting that need, if we are not honest about how to give in a relationship to be that other person too, it's not just about us getting filled up, but also being in that reciprocal situation where we're giving and loving, and they're giving and loving, and the friendship needs are being met. That's the focus. So not how do I fix this loneliness, and it's not what's wrong with me, but what am I longing for? Just simply, what am I longing for? And if you would like to talk about this more with other women who are in a season of wrestling with their emotions from an honest perspective, from a Christian perspective, then you're invited to join us in July for what we're going to be discussing about loneliness in the club. We're going to explore emotional disconnection specifically and what it means to have healthy connection, what it means to ask these questions of, I'm longing for this. Where is that place where only God can fill? And where is that place where others, people, humans can fill? What contributes to the emotional distance? How we can stay open to connection without losing ourselves, without falling into people pleasing. redefining what it is for us in this season. So I pray that after we talked about this today, that you feel that your loneliness, if that's what you're experiencing, that it makes sense, that you can recognize it as making sense. And if you want to have more of a connection and talk to other people who are going through this, then please join us in the club in July. You can find out more information about the Emotional Confidence Club at aliciamichelle.com/club. Take care, friend. I hope you have an amazing week, and I will see you back here for next week's discussion. Bye-bye.
Hey, thanks for joining me today. For full show notes and helpful next step resources, visit aliciamichelle.com/podcast. And if you enjoyed this episode, I'd be honored if you'd leave a 5-star rating and review. Thanks for being here. I'll see you back next week.